While it may not be feeling like fall today, it's obviously here. The leaves are changing and the sun is setting earlier every day. Tom O'Hare joins us outside where he is closing up shop in the garden and starting his compost pile.
Welcome back, everyone. Last week we talked about getting rid of all the plants, making a compost pile, and Justin, some people don't know what compost is. What is it?
Well, composting is a way Mother Nature breaks down the product that we have at the end of the year.
All right, why would you do that?
That is a good nutrient for anything that you grow in the ground, whether it's your garden or your turf or anything.
Okay, so what's the process here? What are we going to do to make this happen? Or what options people do? Because we chose a spot here where a grassy spot to make our compost pile. But I know there's other options to do composting, right?
Yeah, there's all types of ways to compost. You can go online and find, using pallets, making different compost bins. You can buy compost tumblers, or you can, do what we did. And out of our, 6 composting sites in Michigan, we have big equipment to do large volume composting. But to keep it simple for homeowners and stuff, just utilize the pallets that you have or the compost tumblers.
And again, we're just going to use this section of grass here, and we're going to throw some our greenery, right? We'll call it greenery.
Yeah, yeah.
And now we're going to mix it with the dairy dew.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, making a cake, let's say. So you got to have equal, parts of different products or different, thatch that you pulled out. And then dairy dew is really good for your garden, but it also is really good for breaking down the plant material so you can have your own compost next year.
All right, so let's get into it. Let's rip things apart and make this compost pile.
All right, sounds right. We don't want it all. That's plenty.
That's good?
Yep.
Justin, looks good. I mean, we got everything layered in there very nicely. So what's the next step?
So now, when we do compost, there's 4 important ingredients that you got to pay attention to. It's nitrogen, oxygen, moisture, and carbon. So understanding that and aerating it is the oxygen part. So once this sits here for a month, you're going to want to take a pitchfork or some way to rotate it over one section.
Just making sure there's oxygen in it all the time?
Yes, because what that will start doing, if you get a big enough pile in here, it could get up to 100, 140 degrees. All of our compost gets up to 140 degrees, so we burn off any weed seeds or pathogens that might be in that.
So there's heat coming out of this over time?
Yes, as you get a big enough pile and you aerate it like you should, you'll create heat. So once you do that, you want to bring it over a section, so then with your fall leaves coming, if it's a little wet or something, you can add some leaves into there. You're going to want more brown in this because we just got done with the vegetables. There's a lot of green.
Right.
So introduce some brown to this. So as you rotate it over, you can mix some leaves with it, and it'll help build that pile. And then if it's really dry, don't be afraid to get your hose out and start watering it down. If it's too wet, make sure you got a nice teepee on it so it doesn't take on a bunch of extra moisture.
All right, so we've got our greenery here. You can add, you said, leaves. Grasses, what else?
And food waste, paper, anything that's compostable in your house, you can add to your compost pile. Just make sure you don't continue at it without a direction of aerating and rotating it, so it's broke down for next year.
All right, do we need to add more dairy dew over the wintertime or in the fall or so?
If you start rotating and you still have big chunks of like tomato plants or big wads of big leaves, then you can go and sprinkle some dairy dew in there. All that's going to do is introduce a lot of biology in there to start breaking that down to help so it can be available for your plant next year.
All right, and that's what our goal is. Next year's growing season, this will be ready to use as nutrients and just great for it, right?
Yes, absolutely. As the biology breaks this down, it has to be broke down for your plant to take it up through its roots. So that's what's happening right now.
All right, perfect. And thank you, Justin. Great year it's been.
Yes, my pleasure.
And things looking great. We're planning on next year, and it should be a great way to go with what we have here and what the plants are ready to go. The garden beds are all set to go. So that's it for what's growing over Tom this year, and we hope to see you next year.